Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, June 6th, 2022. I am Dave Biddle flying solo on today's show. All right, we're going to have some fun on today's show. It's going to kind of have a get off my lawn vibe, but I want to have some fun. I do feel passionate about this subject, though. Not a fan of Ohio State wearing alternate uniforms. First of all, let me retweet the show here real quick for the live audience. And I'm going to get into why. When you're elite, you don't need to do stuff like that. When you have, in my opinion, the best uniform helmet combination in college football, you don't need to do that type of stuff. Notice Alabama never does it. It's my next little point to bring up. You never see Alabama do that. They're also a Nike program. We'll get into the Nike angle here in a moment. But the biggest thing here is Ohio State is elite. They're a blue blood. If you're a second-tier program, I get doing stuff like that. And I also get that some of the players enjoy it. So, another point I want to make, like if you want to do it, once a year for a lesser game, fine. Okay. Even get off my lawn guy here is okay with that. I don't want to see it against Michigan. Okay. We had a situation in the 2016 Michigan game where there were Ohio State and Michigan playing in the horseshoe. One of the teams had a helmet with stickers on it. What's Ohio State known for? Mostly their helmets, right? When you look at their uniforms, the helmet stickers. Well, that day, Ohio State had helmets with no stickers on them, and Michigan had helmets with stickers on them. Well, thankfully, had a good ending. Shout out to Curtis Samuel. But those were terrible uniforms. And even if you like the uniforms themselves, there have been some alternate uniforms. I'm like, okay, if that was you're starting a new program and that's your uniform, it could be kind of a sweet uniform. Not when you're Ohio State. Again, I can't stress it enough. I mean, Alabama doesn't do it. You think it hurts their recruiting? No. And the next time a recruit picks a school based on alt unis will be the first. It's never happened and it never will. So forget about this. It helps with recruiting stuff. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Find me a recruit that's picked a school based on alternate uniforms. It's ridiculous. So I just find it funny, and I've put some stuff out there on Twitter. I feel like just kind of rapping with you guys last night. I feel, and even a little bit this morning, I feel like the majority is with me, but there are some people who are, saying, no, come on, man. You got to get with the times here. Again, I'm okay with it, like once a year, not against Michigan, not against Penn State, the two elite, the two marquee, regular season games the Buckeyes get every year. Wouldn't want to see it against Notre Dame, and I don't think we will. We'll also talk about the Notre Dame game later. We're going to talk more about alternate uniforms on this show. I'm just starting the show talking about me venting about this pet peeve that I have about Ohio State wearing alternate uniforms for big games. When they have, again, in my opinion, the best uniform helmet combination in college football. So, if they want to do it once a year, that's fine. When Arkansas State comes here, cool. Or even a lesser Big Ten team, whatever. I just, again, be elite. You're Ohio State. You don't even need to act like you're elite. You are elite. Be elite. Okay, so we've had some questions. We had Chip Munn asked, well, there's got to be a good reason. Like, Gene Smith's a smart guy. And by the way, I like Gene Smith. I don't like that he does this because he's the one that lets it happen. Overall, I like Gene Smith a lot. I want to be clear about that. That doesn't mean I have to like everything he does. I'm sure Gene Smith loves the Bucknuts Morning 5. That doesn't mean he probably likes everything we talk about, like this subject. I'm sure Gene never watches the show, actually. But if he does, hi, Gene, you're not going to like this part of the show. Okay, follow the money. It's obviously a money maker for Nike. Ohio State and Nike have a great relationship. Bama has a relationship with Nike. Saban tells them to buzz off. Now, do I know that for a fact? No, but I'm sure Nike has gone to Alabama and said, hey, can you guys wear alternate uniforms? And Saban probably gave them the death look and said, hell no. So, I think, I remember, Jim Tressel was very careful with his words, but the first time it happened was in 2009, going up to Ann Arbor. And you could tell Tressel was not going to throw his 80 under the bus, but you could tell he was not happy about it at all, that they're wearing alternate uniforms for the 2009 Michigan game. Speaking of Alabama, Ohio State kind of looked like Alabama that day. Numbers on the helmet. I know back in the day, Ohio State did that, but still, since 1968, that national championship team, the uniforms have stayed pretty much the same. And that I'm fine with some alterations. I like gray on the shoulders. I know a lot of you guys like that stuff. I'm not talking about they can't do some like alterations, just completely scrapping the uniform and not even looking like Ohio State. I'm just not a fan of that at all. I don't like it, especially in big games. But I do remember Jim Tressel not being a fan of having to do that in 2009. Then they did it again in 2010. His last 2 games, they were alternate uniforms, and he was not a fan of that. Again, I could just tell. He didn't, you could just tell at the press conferences he was not a fan of that. He never said that himself, so I'm kind of putting words in Jim Tressel's mouth, but I'd bet my life on it. So why does he let it happen? So, Nike wants it to happen, so Gene lets it happen. And I'm sure Ohio State gets some, Nike gets extra money out of it, and I'm sure Ohio State gets extra money out of it too, or they wouldn't do it, But I think there are certain things you just can't sell out. Like, obviously, you could, if you wanted to make money at Ohio State, what could you do? You could sell the naming rights of Ohio Stadium. You could call it Nationwide Stadium and make a bunch of money from Nationwide, right? Would we want that? No. No. Reminds me of a good April Fool's joke that I fell for years ago from the other paper. I've told this story, I think, before on the show one time. The other paper, which used to do great work here in Columbus, they've been out of business for a while now. It was a free newspaper, came out once a week. It was just really good stuff. And 1999, when they were renovating the Horseshoe, and this was right around the time when like stadiums, were all going, the way of, sponsorships. It's rare to see a Paul Brown Stadium anymore. You see it more in college football with Ohio Stadium. But anyway, so the joke was front page of the other paper in 1999. This is when the Horseshoe's getting renovated. April 1st, 1999, other paper says Ohio Stadium being renamed Wendy's Field. And then A deck, B deck, and C deck are going to be named single, double, and triple. And I was so pissed. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, handed me the paper, and I looked at it. I was so pissed off. I just crumbled it up and threw it. She goes, remember what day it is? And it hit me right there, April Fool's Day. So that was a good April Fool's joke. But I'm serious. So, yeah, Ohio State makes some extra money off of the alt uniforms, I'm sure. But how much do they really make off of that? Does it make a big difference? And there's a lot of ways you could sell out if you wanted to make money. I don't think wearing alt uniforms for the Michigan game is a good way to, make extra money. Again, if you want to do it once a year to placate Nike, make a little extra money for the program, do it, against a lesser Big Ten team. Don't do it in the 2 marquee games of the year or the 3 marquee games. One of the 3 marquee games a year. Just don't do it then. Don't do it then. And again, I like the gray on the shoulders. I always have. I don't know why they don't do that permanently. I'm not talking about that. So that's why they allow it happen. Follow the money. So we'll see what happens. At least the last couple of Michigan games. Of course, we didn't have one 2 years ago. Last couple of Michigan games, they haven't done that nonsense. But hopefully going forward, if they do the alt uniforms, they will not do it in big games. All right, let's get to some actual football. Does that sound good to you guys? All right, cool. Had some questions about the Buckeyes linebackers. What to expect from the Buckeyes linebackers? It's interesting. They've got tremendous depth there, but they don't have much star power, in my opinion. Now, I think Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers are going to be the starters, and they could develop into that. I don't think they're going to be superstars, but it's an interesting group. As I look at my notes here, I got Tommy and Steel penciled in as the starters. I think that's a pretty safe bet. And then when they go 3 backers out there, when they go with that Sam linebacker, because Jim Knowles knows when they play, it's not the Big 12 anymore. You're not in Kansas any longer. You're not in Stillwater any longer. You're not playing Kansas any longer. You're in the Big 10 now. You're going to be playing some power running teams. So, and you're going to play Wisconsin. You're going to play teams like Michigan. So they're going to have to use some Sam linebacker, and that'll be Reed Carrico. He'll be the number 1 there. And I think Reed will play some of that, some Mike. He can play those other 2 linebacker spots as well. That Knowles defense. The Knowles base, of course, is a 4-2-5. But they'll mix in some traditional 4-3 again against power running teams. So Tommy Eichenberg, Steel Chambers, Reed Carrico, and then I think Cody Simon's the guy people forget about a little bit. He was banged up last year, tough through multiple injuries. I think he's going to at least be in the mix. You look at Chip Trayanum, the transfer from Arizona State. Can he get in there and help out? Taraja Mitchell is a 5th-year senior, a guy we've all kind of been waiting for ever since even his true freshman year. Could he come right in and make an impact as a true freshman? And then he's just he's always gotten on the field, but hasn't really, done much. And then especially last year was his most playing time, and I don't think he played that well. Can Knowles get the most out of Taraja Mitchell? Because Knowles also works with the linebackers. So, You also have CJ Hicks. You have E.A. Natiote. I'm telling you, that's 8 guys I mentioned right there. You know, you also have Gabe Powers. That's a 9th scholarship linebacker. So they've got depth. I don't know about the star power, though. You know, I need to see it first. I think they can be good enough. You know, and I think this D-line is going to be really good, especially the D-ends. And I'm probably more bullish on the defensive tackles than most. I think as a group, they're going to be good because Tyleik Williams and Mike Hall, especially Tyleik Williams, I think are going to take, big jumps. Tyleik Williams flashed as a true freshman last year. I think he's going to be big time as a sophomore this year. And Mike Hall is a redshirt freshman who really came on in the spring. Jim Knowles talked him up a lot. Smaller, quicker D tackle. So you mix those 2 young guys with the veterans. And I think now it's time for Teron Vincent to come around. You know, we saw it in the Rose Bowl, but can he put a whole year together? Former number 1 defensive tackle recruit in the country in the 2018 class, 5th-year senior. Now or never for Teron Vincent. Jerron Cage, 6th-year senior. The touchdown rumbler last year. He can be kind of a plugger in there, be a guy that can come in there and back up Tyleik Williams. And Larry Johnson likes to rotate those guys. And then Ty Hamilton is another guy. So you got those are your top 5 D tackles, and then maybe Hero Canoe can round it out there as a true freshman, or Jaden McKenzie. So I like the D tackles maybe more than most, but I think because the defensive line is going to be good, very good perhaps, that'll help the linebackers, of course. And maybe the linebackers will be better than solid. I think the baseline is solid. I think they'll be solid this year. They weren't solid last year. I think they'll be solid, and maybe they'll get to good. I don't think we're going to, by any means, say this is going to be a great linebacking core this year for the Buckeyes. But I do think they can be good. And, again, I don't think they'll be any worse than solid. I think Tommy Eichenberg, they couldn't talk him up enough in spring. Another guy where the lights seem to go on for him in the Rose Bowl. Defensive MVP, 17 tackles, and they really like Tommy. And Steel Chambers now at that full year of being a linebacker under his belt, now he's playing for it. Has played it. I know he played it in high school, but now he's played it on this level, knows what it takes, has bulked up a little bit more. Steel Chambers, I guess if you're looking at a guy that maybe has a high ceiling, I think Tommy is going to be good. Steel could be one of those guys that maybe does have some star power. We'll see. He's got that, with that speed he's got from being his running back days, and he seems just to have a knack for finding the ball. And, the great linebackers just have instincts. They just do. The great linebackers all have a knack for finding the ball. And Steel Chambers has that. All right, the next question was that we're going to get to. I'll get to a couple more here. These are all questions that I got on Twitter and then from our subscribers on Bucknuts. It's kind of picked out 5 questions in addition to the my vent on alternate uniforms. If you're just tuning into the show, you can rewind or go back to the beginning and watch my vent on why I don't like alternate uniforms at Ohio State. Because Ohio State's elite and they need to act like it. That's why. And they got the best uniform helmet combination in college football. Why mess with it? Bama never messes with their uniforms, and their uniforms aren't as good as Ohio State's. So anyway, all right. Captains. All right. Usually we're talking seniors and, juniors, right? Well, I think this year we might have well, one is a junior. They're both third-year guys. I think on offense, it's clear to me it has to be C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith-Njigba. I know CJ's only a third-year sophomore, but who cares? This is his last year. He's a second-year starting quarterback. If you're a second-year starting quarterback and you're not a captain of your football team, something's wrong there. I'll never forget that 2007 Michigan team. They did not vote Chad Henne a captain. I was like, that's interesting. And they tried to talk around it. Oh, we got all these other great leaders. Chad Henne was a 4-year starter at quarterback and was not voted captain by his teammates. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. C.J. Stroud, Mickey Marotti, we talked about it on the show last week, and Mickey Marotti is just drilling it into him. You need to be seen, felt, and heard as a leader. Those are the 3 qualities every great leader has. You're seen, you're felt, you're heard. And he thinks CJ's a good leader, but he's trying to make him a great leader. And CJ's he is a good leader. He's a great guy, and guys gravitate toward him. You can just see his teammates love him. When he talks, people listen. When he talks, people listen. Maybe he needs to talk even more. But when he talks, people listen, and they're trying to make him a great leader. So I'm betting the house on the offensive captains, C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith-Njigba, no doubt about it. Defense gets a little trickier. And I think Zach Harrison's going to be one. Say what you want about Zach. First of all, I think he's going to have a good year this year. Okay, we've seen it time and time again where fans and media write off guys that were highly rated prospects, maybe disappointed, and then the light comes on from them as a senior. Curtis Grant comes to mind. It's that same year, that same defense. Steve Miller comes to mind. And I think Zach Harrison as a senior is going to be better than Steve Miller was as a senior. Steve Miller had a good senior year. Just asked Alabama, that pick 6 that he had. I think Zach Harrison is going to be better than that. And he's a leader. Keep in mind, as a junior last year, Zach Harrison was a captain. Zach Harrison was one of the guys that, one of the 3 guys that represented Ohio State at Big Ten Media Days. So I think you've got 3 captains there for sure. You got the 2 offensive guys, Stroud, JSN, and I think Zach Harrison. I think those guys are locks. Then it gets interesting. If they only go with 4 captains, which I think they should, I like just the 4 captains. When the Urban Meyer model of having like 15 captains, I mean, it was kind of cool. You had like Kenny Guyton was a captain, your backup quarterback's a captain, and the starting quarterback, Brax. I mean, in a way, it was cool because a bunch of guys got to be captain, but like, I don't know. Again, I'm being old man, get off my lawn. I kind of like the tradition of 4 captains on a football team. Then it gets interesting. So Tommy Eichenberg would be in the mix. I think Cam Brown would be in the mix. I'm not sure how Cam Brown, I know, is a really good player. I think we kind of overlook him a little bit, talking about Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock on the rise. I think as a 5th-year senior, Cam Brown's going to be a really good corner. He got excellent speed. Now 2 years removed from that Achilles injury. He's going to be in the mix. They talk up Ronnie Hickman a lot. He'll be a 4th-year junior. Again, Cam Brown's a 5th-year senior. I guess if I had to bet, I would go Cam Brown, considering he's a 5th-year senior, flirted with the NFL, decided to come back. Again, though, it just depends. Who's the best leader out of that group? Who gets the most out of their teammates? Is it Tommy? Is Tommy the guy the guys listen to the most? Is it Cam Brown or is it Rocket Hickman? I think those are the last 3 candidates if they only go with 4 captains. All right, a couple more to get to. We'll start with a fun one, then we'll end with the serious one. We have a debate on Bucknuts right now. Matt Baxendale, who is usually my guest on Wednesday's show when he's not doing his not knee deep in his engineering gig. Sometimes I think he just says that just to get out of doing the show, right? No, he actually does have a pretty good. He's not just an engineer; he's a good engineer. Okay, so he's got a lot on his plate. No, I think he does lie to me sometimes just to get out of the show. I'm kidding, Bax. No, I'm not. So Bax did a column yesterday. His column every Sunday, it's great stuff, The Bucket, and made a lot of references. It wasn't about English soccer, English football. It wasn't about English soccer, but he made a ton of like analogies toward English soccer where everybody was like, wait a minute, you can tell that you're like Bax, we didn't know you're such a soccer fan. You either did like crazy research for this or you are a big English soccer fan and nobody knew that. So then it turned into this huge debate. It's ongoing right now on our message board of soccer aficionados versus soccer haters, and I won't even say I'm in the middle because I'm a soccer. I like soccer, but I'm closer, I guess, to an aficionado than a hater. So I'm not like right in the middle. The people were debating, is that what you do in the summertime to kind of kill time till football starts? What sports are you into to watch? Yeah, I mean, I like the Columbus Crew. I'm usually not glued to the game, but I'll have it on, 2 years ago when they won the MLS Cup, I was all into that. I thought that was awesome. I'm disappointed they're not doing that good this year. But yeah, so, as someone was asking me, even with the Reds being terrible, are you still like following the Reds? Yeah, I am. I can't quit my Reds. I keep thinking I'm not going to care. I don't really care when they lose, and I don't hang on every pitch. It's kind of like when I have the Crew game on. I'll just have it on in the background. I can't, even when the Reds are good, which is rare. I can't sit. And I'm a big Reds fan. I can't just sit down and watch 9 innings of baseball. No way. Can't do it. Have to have music on or be on my computer on the internet or all 3. Have a game on mute. Yeah, I mean, I still watch the Reds. I'll watch the Crew. Looking forward to the World Cup. I like this U.S. men's national team. This is our best team ever. I got into NASCAR a little bit. I was watching some NASCAR yesterday. I was watching some Memorial Golf yesterday. I'm just a sports junkie. I love sports. NASCAR was one that was never on my radar. Then the pandemic 2 years ago hit. There was like no sports at all. NASCAR was like the first to come back. And I'm like, I need to pick a favorite driver and just, I guess, be a NASCAR fan now. And I took, put a little poll up on Twitter. Like, who should I give me a suggestion of a favorite driver and why? Ryan Blaney won, and it ended up being great because he's been really good since then. Ryan Blaney won because born and raised in Ohio, and his grandfather or his father was on the NASCAR tour or NASCAR circuit as well, and had the nickname of the Buckeye Bullet. That would be Dave Blaney. So Ryan Blaney, the son of the Buckeye Bullet, Ryan Blaney, a Buckeye fan himself. Even though they say hometown, when they show the NASCAR, it says hometown, High Point, North Carolina. That's not his hometown. That's where he lives now. not your hometown. Like my hometown is, I've lived in Columbus for 20 years, over 20 years now. My hometown is Beaver Creek, Ohio. It's where you're born and raised, go to high school. That's your hometown. Like, anyway, another tangent there. So I watch a lot of different sports, but man, I can't wait for football. But yeah, I still, there's a lot of sports I watch in the summertime for sure. All right, last one here. So we had somebody ask, could Ohio State, with all this hype they're getting from people like me and people that are saying national title or bust, my guy J Book, he's kind of talked me into that almost. Although I'm not still at national championship or bust. Alabama is still like really, really good. I think there's a two-team, not necessarily a two-team race, but I think there's a clear top two. But a lot of things have to go your way. I'm absolutely win the Big Ten championship. Beat Michigan, beat them bad, win the Big Ten championship, get to the playoffs or bust for sure, and then see what happens from there. But there's a question, could Ohio State be overconfident going into the Notre Dame game after all this hype they're getting? And the same user was asking, last year it seemed to me they were very overconfident going into the Oregon game. All this talk, we've never lost to Oregon, and look at this team we have, and we're ranked this high, and Oregon's not that good and all this. And then look what happened. I don't think Ohio State's going to be overconfident at all for Notre Dame. And it's not even necessarily because of Notre Dame itself, although that's part of it. Notre Dame is a good team, and I'm sure they have a lot of respect for Notre Dame. And there's no way Ryan Day is going to want a former Ohio State player in his first game. I mean, Marcus Freeman did coach the Fiesta Bowl. It's funny, like Jim Knowles didn't coach that game for Oklahoma State because I think Mike Gundy was salty that he took the Ohio State job, and he had his assistants call the defense. And then also Brian Kelly didn't coach that game because he'd already left for LSU. So Marcus Freeman already starting his career off with an L against Oklahoma State. Cowboys with a big comeback in that game. Ryan Day doesn't want any part of losing, period. He definitely doesn't want a former Ohio State player coming in here and beating him at his place to open the season. But beyond that, this Ohio State team is as motivated and as hungry as I can remember, okay, because of what happened last year. They talk about it, and you can see it in their eyes, whether it's the players or the coaches. Mickey Marotti talked about this for like 10 minutes out of the 30 minutes he talked to us. That, I almost said last week. I think it was like 3 weeks ago now. I can't remember now. It was in May, somewhat early May. Yeah, probably 3 weeks ago, 4 maybe. And he couldn't talk about this enough. And he's not alone. Every time we talk to anybody on the staff, including the big man himself, Ryan Day, they make it clear as day. They are highly motivated about what happened last year. They're embarrassed, and life is good when you go 11-2 and you win the Rose Bowl and you're embarrassed, but the standard is high as it should be. And you lose to a mediocre Oregon team at home, and you really get embarrassed by Michigan 42-27. I mean, not good at all. And they know that. I think Ryan Day's taking the proper steps. So they're hungry about what happened last year. They got that chip on their shoulder. They're not coming off a great season, even though they're getting the hype. I think internally they're blocking that out a little bit because they're talking about how they're still ticked off about what happened last year. So no, I think you're going to get a highly motivated Ohio State team. If they start blowing the doors off teams, and then they start kind of feeling good, maybe then at some point in the season they could get overconfident. But I think they're going to stay locked in regardless because they know how easily now it can happen. And last year, some of these guys, especially that Michigan game, they might have thought they hated Michigan. They might have said the right things that, yeah, anything can happen in the game. I don't think they believe that. I don't even think they hated Michigan. Now they do. Now they have that hatred that all of us that suffered through the 90s had, still have to this day because of that. It can't happen enough, where even if you dominate Michigan for a decade, you want to keep it going. You keep your foot on their neck because you felt the suffering, you have the hatred because of what happened in the 90s. And now I think Ohio State's players have that. It was just one game, but when you have, and what happened in the tunnel with the players going at each other, not really like I put fists up like they were fighting. They weren't fighting, but they were jawing at each other big time. And Michigan took it to them. I'm sure was letting them know about it on the field. So that's in Ohio State's mind. And now Michigan's got to come here, and that bill is coming due in November. Harbaugh thought he was out the door. I guarantee you he thought he was out the door. That's why he felt comfortable saying things like, born on third base, thought you hit a triple. Now that bill's coming due in Columbus, late November, Jim Harbaugh. All right, there you go. Went a little longer than I meant to here on the Bucknuts Morning 25. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you like the show, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. All that stuff really helps. really appreciate you guys tuning into the show. I know you guys have a lot of options. I love that you guys are loyal listeners to the show, and really, really appreciate it. Hope all of you have a great day.